Hello guys, and welcome to second Metagame Monday, where I take a look at a very popular team that is being used in current in-game ladder series, and I look at its EV spreads, synergies, and how the team beats other metagame teams. Yeah, I think that's about it. Well, I'm looking at my t-shirt today, which I picked. Good advice for those who are going to World Championship next year or whatever. Pick the $60 t-shirt instead of this one. They usually use very horrible color scheme on these bags and t-shirts. Like, I remember last 2 years, 2018 and 2017, they gave us like baby blue backpacks like twice in a row, and it looked very bad and stupid. So we're gonna look like a weirdo outside, maybe Weibo, I don't know. But if you're planning to look like a normal peasant in society, not interested in Pokemon, I highly recommend picking the more expensive t-shirts. But enough rambling around about that. That's just about my baby blue t-shirt. So what's the deal with this thing? Why do I want to explain it today? So basically, this team is, I feel, well, there are like multiple popular archetypes, but this one is definitely in popularity top 3, undisputed. Everyone would agree that this is like either top first or top 3 most popular and most consistent and most powerful team in the game right now. So yeah, basic idea of the team is to get a Groudon. Groudon usually replaces Torkoal from the previous seasons. Groudon is just better than Torkoal. You can just probably guess why. It got, let me just watch, yeah, I'm watching the music, okay. So it got higher speed first of all, so it doesn't really rely on Trick Room to deal offensive pressure outside of the Trick Room, which is a sign of a good Pokemon, working in and out of the Trick Room. Second thing is that it got ground typing, which means it synergizes much better with Charizard and Venusaur than the Torkoal does, since it beats the fire types for these two other Pokemon, which are otherwise big threat. One of the reasons why Sun was not that easy to use last few seasons was that Torkoal plus Venusaur combo was heavily counteracted by a heavily attack invested Incineroar, which just one-shotted Venusaur with the Flare Blitz, even without Max Flare. And really, Torkoal was just gonna look at that situation, just enroll and say like, yeah, I could not have prevented that. Well, Urshifu, maybe you in the back can just take care of that after our Dynamax was wasted turn 1. Yeah, it's just like, it doesn't, that does not sound right? So, Groudon does that much better, since it forces Incineroar to at least Dynamax or just die turn 1 if you lead Groudon plus Venusaur. That's great. Although it doesn't have fire typing, it still gets sun boosted fire punches, and I mean, do I want to talk about Groudon already? Let's go. Alright, so Groudon. The set of Groudon can vary. A lot of people are running Citrus Berry. I've seen a lot of people run Citrus Berry Swords Dance. Yeah, the coverage points on Groudon. Let's actually talk about those. So I would say if you already got Charizard and Incineroar on the team, I would say fire punch is not as necessary. Since I'm seeing Ho-Oh being on the rise usage-wise, and Ho-Oh is extremely annoying for this archetype as a whole, and being able to just max Rockfall to Oblivion is extremely useful. So if you're running a Swords Dance set, I would recommend running something like this. It beats Thundurus pretty hard as well, which we might go into that in counteraction section later in the video, but Thundurus incarnate form beats both of these Pokemon pretty well, and having some kind of like thing you can back up on, like Rock Slide from Max Rockfall, can go a long way in beating the Thundurus or Zapdos or whatever is counteracting the Venusaur Charizard combo with its flying type attacks. It's just great to fall back on. I've seen some Life 4 Groudons as well. Like, I'm not sure if they are running fast Groudons, but I've seen a bunch of fast Groudons running Life 4, something like, I would say like maybe max speed or jolly max speed as well, since after Electro Web you are actually going to be outspeeding Zacian and calyrex-shadow if you get Electro Web against them and you got Jolly Natures. So I've seen some of these as well. I actually don't remember what kind of spread did I run. Oh yeah, breakpoint and attack stat. Sign of a good EV spread. And yeah, rest of the EV spread is just a speed creep out of Groudons. Or actually, that's not very optimal. I would maybe run something like this, since this way you outspeed definitely all Groudons, since the 119 benchmark is basically there to outspeed Cortana with +1 speed or -1 speed on Cortana, since you got max Airstream support and Electro Web support from these two Pokemon. This way you assure you're gonna live that. Actually, this might be better. These min-maxing options don't really matter in real life scenarios in the game. They just don't matter. It's just like for your good feeling. But okay, I picked the Salt West variant since I feel that variant puts up the most bulk for, like, it's very bulky and it's able to exert a lot more offensive pressure as a result against teams like Kyogre. This Groudon can actually Water Spout from Kyogre against this Groudon does 63%, I believe, maximum. Well, of course, if it's Dynamaxed, or I mean, I was meant to say this is rain boosted Water Spout from Kyogre against this Groudon with no special defense boosts. Does 63%. So I think this is just kind of cool calc to mention. It allows Groudon to just be extremely bulky and stay a lot more on the field, which I feel the other Groudons are kind of missing on, which I feel makes the Groudon a bit less of a viable option, since like a lot of the other Groudon like kind of rely on Dynamaxing to pull off its defensive wave, to just be as bulky as possible. But with the Salt West on Groudon, you don't really have to Dynamax, and you can focus on Venusaur. The Charizard Dynamaxes a lot more, and then just the team just works a bit better, I feel, because of that, since these two Pokemon hit a lot harder for a much wider coverage than a Groudon does. It's just, and they got like 2 stabs as well. Groudon just got 1 stab that opponent can block with immunity, like Flying typing or Levitate. So yeah, Groudon is not a very good Dynamaxer. Oh yeah, let me mention White Herb as well. I've seen some White Herb Groudons running around. About the same spread, again running Sword Dance that I showed before. This is because, like, I myself, when I played Glastrier Trick Room, Semi-Trick Room, I was annoyed by Intimidate Incineroar so much that I literally got White Herb on my Glastrier instead of a Salt West. Instead of a Salt West that allows you to take pretty much every special attack in the game very comfortably. I just switched to White Herb because Incineroar was just so annoying, and that choice was very correct, since I got like 1734 rating on Indie International Challenge, and I'm 3rd from Europe right now, so I'm most likely going to get a bye in a Players Cup 3 qualifiers. So yeah, White Herb pull its weight on a Glastrier. I would say White Herb can pull its weight on Groudon as well. But usually Assault Vest is just gonna be better. White Herb is just, if you like Trick Room sweeps a lot, you can just pull them off just so much more consistently. Since Intimidate is no longer an option, opponent can just get a swoop in with Incineroar. He just one-shot Incineroar on the switch and just, that's job done. And that's it, everyone is happy after that. Since there are no more Intimidates, and yeah, there are no more Intimidates, there are more Incineroar switch-ins, and you can just pull off the sweep much more comfortably. Yeah, not only you prevent this Intimidate, but the next ones as well, because you just knock it out, yeah. Other than that, EV spread I just explained, speed creeping out of Groudons, getting a breakpoint in attack, as you can see here, 2 more points, and rest of the EV spread is focused on the bulk. Thunder Punch is logical coverage, like, you could run Shadow Claw on, honestly, because that beats calyrex-shadow a lot harder, but we already got quite a bunch of counters to, I mean, we don't have many counters to calyrex-shadow, but we already got Incineroar and Porygon 2 on the team, which means we are fine enough, especially with Electro Web on Regieleki as well, just kind of slowing it down. And Assault Vest on Groudon also being a factor, plus Max Quake, I think we're just fine enough against calyrex-shadow to pretty much justify Thunder Punch as the only other logical coverage move on Groudon. Now, don't use Dragon Claw. Rayquaza is extremely rare, like, don't even think about it. So yeah, that's the Groudon EVs. Groudon as a whole, it's probably the biggest explained myth from the team. Alright, so Venusaur. Now, Venusaur can be run two ways, and I'm going to explain that on the EV spread. Now, again, this Venusaur is made to speed creep as many Groudons or Finis or Incineroars as possible. Actually, Incineroars, that doesn't make much sense, but yeah, it's supposed to speed creep as many of these kind of like base 80, base 85 Pokemon as possible to win the speed ties against them and just get a G-Max Fine Lash off more consistently, Sleep Powder off more consistently. You get the idea. Now, you can run a lot less speed, but do never go below this, because if you go 111 speed, you actually get outsped by calyrex-shadow, which again, kind of shuts down the team's flexibility against that archetype if Venusaur is necessary to lead up against them. So, always run like 112 speed, and you outspeed Zacian this way as well, so that's very important as well to outspeed, since Max Quake one-shots the bulkization. If you down a Max and go for Max Quake from Earth Power, that is. Special attack gets a breakpoint, as you're seeing here. You're still very powerful with Life Orb and all these powerful moves. Max Ooze boosts the power of the moves. Earth Power is 130 base power attack in Dynamax, and Leaf Storm is 140 base power attack. So, yeah, I think it's just generally the one you want to run. And rest of the EV spread is put in the bulk. I just feel like bulking Venusaur G-Max is generally harder to answer. Since, like, in previous series, I feel a lot of people resorted to Incineroar just one-shotting a bit of Flare Blitz. If you would run this EV spread in series... was that 6? Yeah, it was series 6. No, series 7 was previous one, yeah. You would be able to survive the Flare Blitz. Maybe not with Life or Recall, but you would have much harder chance to survive the attacks that are meant to just one-shot Venusaur. And you would have much more... like, you would be able to get one more attack off, which can throw so many opponents' plans off guard that they might just straight up lose, because Sun is one of these archetypes that is hard to answer with a lot of these modes. Like, again, just do Dynamax Charizard mode, Venusaur G-Max mode, Porygon 2 with the Trickery. There are just so many options, and if you just survive one more attack, opponent has to prepare for so many strategies that they might just not prepare for one of these modes of this strategy so perfectly. They have to compromise, and the moment they compromise, something like Bulk on Venusaur can throw them off guard, if that's a good enough explanation. Yeah, Sleep Powder is one of the reasons why Venusaur is just so annoying. You have to account for both the G-Max version of Venusaur with all these like powerful effects like G-Max Fine Lash, special attack boost, special defense boost, but you also have to take care of the Sleep Powder that Venusaur can just fire off and your Dynamax is suddenly asleep. This is just the true power of Venusaur G-Max. Now, if you want to run max speed, you can, but keep in mind you need Timid Nature to outspeed Regieleki. Without Timid, you won't be outspinning it, and then it goes for like Electro Web, and it's just gonna be dumb. Just go for Timid if you want max speed. Really, that's my advice for that. Now, Charizard. Charizard is like new addition to the Sun. I don't really know why it was added in the first place. It's kind of like another thing opponent has to take care of, which is annoying, of course, since Charizard's typing is kind of unique. At least on this team, it's kind of unique, and it requires Rock type attack, which Venusaur and Groudon don't care about such a weak stab, right? So we're just gonna go for Charizard, and you can throw a lot of people off guard or force them to lead with rock types, which is then gonna set them back against Venusaur or Groudon. You just get the idea. It's also good to mention that its attacks are absolutely nuclear. Solar Power gives it 50% boost on top of the Sun boost, which makes the G-Max Wildfarts just completely overpowered moves, capable of just doing like over 80% of Porygon 2 and Dusclops, which are already one of the most bulkiest Pokemon in the game. Now it can also go for max Airstreams, which it can again snowball out and control much more efficiently. Solar Beam is for coverage. You can also run Scorching Sands, but I feel again, I mean, you already hit Incineroar hard enough with the max Airstream. You already got Venusaur and Groudon for the Heatran. So I think Air Slash is good enough on its own, so yeah. And Protect is just for extra safety. You won't run max speed to outspeed Xerneas, Urshifu, all the Pokemon below base 100 speed, and there are a lot of them, especially Xerneas. You just attack Xerneas before it sets up Gym, and so that is just such a luxury. Also, Charizard beats Zacian a lot better than these two other Pokemon can, and it's like another soft Zacian, honestly, which is on a very at the moment, like today, yesterday was like there was like two large tournaments, two large grass knot tournaments, and a lot of the top cut used the Zacian. So having a Charizard ready to counteract Zacian is great, especially since Zacian doesn't really run Wild Charge anymore. They run Substitute. So I think Charizard is great for that, and of course it has safety goggles to counteract the sun on your own team. Yeah, you need the safety goggles. Without the safety goggles, you would be able to get put to sleep by Venusaur, and then it just kind of like doesn't make sense anymore, on honesty, to run Charizard. It only makes sense, but like a lot of the usability is just kind of gone, and you really want to counteract the sun with Charizard. Genuinely, when I ran a different variant of sun at one point, and I ran into Charizard mode, I was like, yeah, Celesteela is like Venusaur, Groudon, Porygon 2. None of these Pokemon really want to go up against Charizard, so it beats all the Sun teams without Charizard. Safety goggles Charizard as well, which I think is a great bonus for the mirror matchups. Now, Porygon 2 is there literally to set up Trick Room. I'm not sure what this EV spread does, but it gets Breakpoint and Special Defense? Alright, I'm right, wow. But it's just supposed to be generally bulky, which I feel just, like... Alright, I would like to run Max Defense Porygon 2 because it takes Choose Band Close Combat from Urshifu and other brutal physical attacks, but this one is just generally more useful. It's just useful against larger portion of the metagame. It also takes the Water Spout a bit better, Expanding Forms, helping get Life Orb from calyrex-shadow Rider, takes it a little bit better, and that's very important, especially that thing, because that's just mega powerful attack. So yeah, it's just better generally, and I feel just Series 7 might have been just about Urshifu counteracting Porygon 2, but in this metagame, a lot of the metagame is hitting harder, so I feel spreading the bulk might be a bit more useful. Now, Tri-Attack is there for general attack. Like, Porygon 2 is great because if it gets download boost, it's genuinely an offensive threat, and I feel it just adds a, like, it's not as passive as other Trick Room setters. Like, Dusclops is generally, like, the best setupper, Trick Room setup for a Trick Room sweep. So you can basically, because you got such a large self-proc coverage with, like, Elemental Punches, Rock Tomb, Brick Break, Shadow Sneak, you name it, but Porygon 2 just kind of can function without the Trick Room mode and can just kind of support the team with its powerful attacks and Trick Room Disruption. If opponent runs hard Trick Room, Porygon 2 will be able to disrupt that very well with its own Trick Room and just reverse the Trick Room and recover. It's extremely annoying for reversing the Trick Room. Basically, Porygon 2 is there to reverse the Trick Room and to punish hyper-offensive playstyles with almost no Trick Room checks, like basically like Imprison as their only Trick Room check. Porygon 2 is probably gonna have field day against that. Oh yes, and it can Dynamax. And most importantly, it can stop Landorus. Landorus, as you can see, is quite a pickle for this thing, especially like Intimidates Groudon, Intimidates Incineroar, one-shots Venusaur with Max Airstream, one-shots Charizard with Max Rockfall, is immune against Regieleki. So having an Ice Beam you can fall back on, especially with special attack boost on the horizon on a switch-in, is great, and Porygon 2 enables counteracting Landorus a lot better, so... And it takes Landorus's hits like crazy well as well, so that's basically Porygon 2's role. Now Incineroar... well, basically, Sun teams are usually built like this. This is like the main mode, then they have the Trick Room because it just fits the Groudon, or even the Venusaur without Sun pretty well. And then they just want some calyrex-shadow Rider check, as, yeah, like, Expanding Forces are going to be brutal against this. And Incineroar does that just fine. I've seen people experiment with, like, Umbreon. Yeah, Joe UX9 used Umbreon on his variant of the Sun. But again, it was about the same role, really. The Incineroar didn't change much. It's just, like, the basic things. It does the basic things, but they... the Incineroar usually should run Darkness Lariat right now, so it can counteract the calyrex-shadow Rider a lot better. It doesn't run Taunt anymore. It doesn't really need Taunt anymore, since Porygon 2 will just do the reversing Trick Room reverse job anyways, and it just not good at Taunt Tailmate Whimsicott anyways, so... Yeah, it takes the Life Orb Max Quake from Venusaur with this special defense investment. Yeah, it's the old spread that actually one-shots Venusaur with Flare Blitz, it speed creeps as many Incineroars as possible, so you can go for Fake Out before them. And then it got Darkest Lariat for Max Darkness to just KO the calyrex-shadow rider. So that's basically his Incineroar. And Regieleki is there. Like, you can probably tell, like, this team doesn't, like, if they somehow get Rain up, the team's matchup against Kyogre is catastrophic, and Regieleki is supposed to be, like, another safety check for Kyogre. And it does that perfectly. I actually don't think you should run that. You should run Tanner. Actually, it doesn't matter. The idea is that Tanner actually one-shots Kyogre, but it's generally better to go for Electro Up against Tornadus Kyogre to just slow down the Kyogre, slow down the Tornadus, so Regieleki can outspeed them even in Talbot because of its absurdly high base 200 speed. And then it goes for another Electro Up to just knock them both out. And if Kyogre tries to revolt, you can Thunderbolt it for much bigger damage and just try to knock it out if it gets like, if Electro Up gets low roll on the first time. And of course, Volt Switch is great for positioning advantages. And Focus Sash is just important, very important, since it allows you to take the Water Spout plus Tailwind, combination Tournament against Tornadus Kyogre. It gives you more flexibility against that, let's just say. So yeah, Focus Sash is very important. You could run like dual screens maybe, instead of like Volt Switch and Protect, but I generally don't recommend it unless you have like good reason for that. So yeah, I feel this is like the most generic build of the Sun. I've seen some people experiment around with dual screens plus weakness plus Venusaur. I've seen some people experiment with Celesteela in that Trick Room mode because it's just kind of like change of pace. And it's annoying to deal with if you're unprepared, but generally just have to remove Incineroar, Regieleki, or Charizard, or whatever on his team to get a Celesteela on the team. And it's just like, this synergy just works so well, I think that it's kind of hard to get out of. So yeah, that's probably it about the team composition. Let me actually just restart the music so we can actually continue listening to the fantastic music. Alright, so yeah, let's go into the matchup section right now and let's talk about that. Alright, so present lights. I finally got a camera here as well. I didn't have it last time. Alright, basic information. Yeah, no one cares about that. So, Eleki Groudon or Eleki Venusaur, I think is just the best check for this. I actually feel Eleki plus Venusaur is actually a bit better. Now I think about it, because it just completely obliterates Tornadus plus Kyogre late anyways. You go to Kyogre immediately, and then Groudon has just such a good matchup against Cortana plus Eleki in the back that they're just not going to come back from that. Yes, I think Eleki plus Venusaur is just a bit better. They're like, they cannot go for Hurricane turn 1 because Electro Web will slow down the Tornadus below the Venusaur's speed, and then it just one-shots the Kyogre with G-Max Wine Lash, and it's just like, it's just better set up Tailwind turn 1, or it might not, because in that case, Eleki will outspeed the next turn with another Electro Web and will KO it. So it's just kind of like Eleki plus Venusaur is just probably better than Groudon, but it's not like a horrible idea to go with Groudon. Because you just do it KO with Electro Web, you go for Max Quake, increase the special offense, and then it's like Cortana and Eleki are like, whatever, I just can't really beat that. The reason I'm saying that is because Cortana lead can like, you get the 2-hit KO on Tornadus, you go for Max Flare to KO the Cortana, and then after they get the Kyogre, and it's just kind of, it doesn't feel very good. If they broken as such on the Eleki, and now they just go for Dynamax, Max Lightning from ground won't KO it, and it's just kind of like annoying. Yeah, Max Lightning I feel KOs the Kyogre without their Dynamax, so that's great. If they go for Water Spout, you actually, even though you didn't set up Max Quake turn 1, you will take the Water Spout with Groudon, and you will be able to just one-shot the Kyogre back with Max Lightning, and then again I feel like Porygon 2 plus Incineroar should be able to clean up the game quite reasonably well, because Porygon 2 is great bulk, and Tornadus' Pocket Sash is kind of broken, but you can get like the idea why Venusaur could be more of a safe lead, but it doesn't really matter in the end product, I feel. Just like Eleki, Groudon, or Venusaur, and have a Groudon in the back, of course, if you got Venusaur. Instead of, I would say, like, Porygon 2, Incineroar would be great still for Intimidate support against the Kartana. But I think you should, either way, you should just be very much fine. Now, Venodon, semi-Trick Room. Yeah, that's pretty much us. Oh yeah, sometimes, I forgot to mention, some people tend to remove one of the slots in the back, like Regieleki or Incineroar, for Glastrier as their kind of Trick Room sweeper option, but I think Groudon does that job well enough anyways. Like on the old mode with the Landorus plus, I mean, on the old Sun, the usual build was Venusaur, Torkoal, Urshifu, Regieleki, Landorus, and Porygon 2. And the Trick Room mode was actually bulky Assault Vest Landorus with almost no speed investment and Torkoal, and yet this mode was enough to punish these hyper offensive, very fast Tailwind teams. So I think just having Glastrier would be like, yeah, but like you already punished this kind of archetype well enough, so it's just kind of good enough, alright? Oh yeah, having Glastrier will set you incredibly back against in the mirrors here, so yeah, yeah, you want to go with Charizard Venusaur. It's like, yeah, if they go for Porygon 2, you can just put it to sleep. Venusaur will just get one-shotted by G-Max Flood or Max Airstream, and it's just gonna be kind of annoying to just deal with this combo. It's just like almost impossible for them to deal with that, honestly. So yeah, this is like Venusaur Groudon is just Sleep Better plus KO Venusaur. Yeah, it's just like kind of funny how this Charizard plus Venusaur combo just runs over this if they don't have their own Charizard. But that's the reality, because that's why you have Charizard on your team as well. Now, if they lead Venusaur Charizard, I would say that's just like kind of annoying, yeah. You go for Max Airstream against the opponent's Charizard. I actually don't write that here, but I think it's just good. Like, people are going to think about it well enough. And with this, yeah, you exchange Max Airstreams, and turn 2, you just gotta win the speed tie. It's a mirrors. You can go with, it's just mirrors, but if you just win the speed tie, you just gotta win. Now, if you're very scared of this late, because if you are facing against smart opponent, there is very high chance they're going to lead with this against you as well. Go Regieleki Charizard, but just reminder, if they lead Venusaur Groudon all of a sudden, you're going to be incredibly behind, because they can Dynamax Groudon, go for Max Rockfall, and it's just going to be very annoying for you to come back from that moment, especially since Regieleki can't really do anything against Venusaur either. So yeah, but you will can, like, if you can get Electro up against their Charizard and you can get Max Airstream, you're already just kind of like running away with the game from your opponent, because you're just going to be so ahead with the extra Airstream boost. And opponent won't have this speed boost, and you're just going to be way too ahead. Also, yeah, Regieleki plus Charizard won't be the Porygon 2 lead either, so it's just like, yeah, these are probably the notes I want to talk about here. I think it's just clear enough. Regieleki Charizard beats Venusaur Charizard, but loses to pretty much everything else. So it's just kind of like rock, paper, scissors, really. Yeah, leads something else, wins against Regieleki, against lead something else, they get beat by Venusaur Charizard, and Venusaur Charizard gets bat by Regieleki. It's literally rock, paper, scissors on this team. So yeah, I think I explained this matchup good enough. Now, Zern Focus setup is again, like, I'm probably going to be talking about Xerneas next week, and I'm just going to say, holy moly, Xerneas is a horrible archetype that doesn't have, like, I don't think it has, like, one positive matchup. Alright, it beats Yveltal, but Yveltal tends to run Steel types and Mungus and Incineroar and Haze Fiend. It's just, Xerneas is a horrible archetype, and like Charizard plus Groudon just wins. I don't think I have to even explain what happens. You just go for Heat Wave plus Precipice Blades to KO the Xerneas. If they lead Charizard, you just G-Max Wildfire before they can set up Geomancy. They will survive, but they will feint the G-Max Wildfire with the Geomancy Beast. Aleki cannot do anything. Landorus is literally their only check the Sun, so this is why you have Porygon 2 and Intimidate on the team, the fear of a Xerneas focused Landorus, or Landorus on that team. So yeah, you just kind of like beat those with, I mean, still Landorus just takes humongous damage from G-Max Wildfire, but it's just really tough matchup for them. As long as you contain the Landorus, you're gonna be fun, and like, this is like one of the matchups where like, they can check your Sun with Landorus, But because you're already a step ahead, you can again get another step ahead of them by having Intimidate plus Porygon 2 Ice Beam against their Landorus, and then you're again on top of their matchup because you're just again step ahead, they're a step back, and then you again are a step ahead. That's how matchups work in general in this Dynamax metagame. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's just how it goes right now. Calyrex-shadow indeed. Incineroar, yeah, we're pretty much leading Incineroar forcibly because it makes their Whimsicott lead instantly worse. Now, I've seen like one guy on ladder using Imprisoned Trick Room Calyrex-shadow ladder, but I think it's just... That's a horrible set since you're giving up on Expanding Force or Mudshot, and in that case you're just kind of like not going to be optimal Calyrex-shadow rider. So you're leading Incineroar to beat their Whimsicott, and then Porygon to just kind of only then you have to care about Indeedee male plus Calyrex lead. If they don't have Indeedee male and Indeedee female, you don't even have to. I don't feel you have to even care about that. Oh yeah, in case of, I'm gonna talk about it, Indeedee female plus Calyrex usually goes for helping it max Mindstorm to one-shot the Porygon 2. In that case, just Darkest Lariat the Calyrex-shadow rider for the instant one-shot and you win the game. They wasted their Dynamax and you got like Dynamax, Groudon or Venusaur in the back, and they're just so behind at that point. So yeah, that's like generally what you do against that. If they have Indeedee male plus Calyrex, I would just recommend going for a... Well, they go for Imprisoned, honestly. They have to go for Imprisoned on one, or else they just instantly lose. So they go for Imprisoned, go for Calyrex-shadow rider with Max Darkness, and Tritax suddenly is 2-hit KO, not because you got special attack boost, but because you special defense dropped them with Max Darkness. What a great use. And after that, continue chipping him at Indeedee, and watch out for Retrieve Water type, because I feel Retrieve Water type with Choice Band just fits into that team just so perfectly, because it beats the Incineroar just so well. The Surging Strikes go through Intimidate, and they just do minimum of 150%, and they just one-shot the Incineroar, and then you just kind of lose. So what you want to do is you keep the Incineroar Dynamax, switch to Groudon to weaken the otherwise 150% to something like 37% on average, and then you can just deal with the Urshifu accordingly with Venusaur that just adds speed and one-shot it, or Groudon's Precipice Blights, or Thunder Punches. Yeah, Venusaur has a good backup checks against everything else on the team. Oh yeah, and it can actually put everything to sleep with Sleep Powder as well. What a joy to see. But yeah, generally don't lead Venusaur Groudon, because in that case they just follow me plus Expanding Force for the double knockout. And yes, it does double knockout, if I recall correctly. If you don't have Assault Vest, it's just one-shots. Like, you just want to give +2 special attack to Calyrex, because Expanding Force just one-shots Venusaur and Groudon. It's just ridiculous, like the Cinematics matchup. So yeah, I don't recommend that. Alright, so Necrozma, okay. Trick Room Dialga, Necrozma, Calyrex Ice. Next week I might expand on Dual Screens Dialga as a new archetype, and just make Necrozma and Calyrex Ice a different kind of archetype. I might make a section about Solgaleo, Self-Proc as well, that briefly talks about Metagross. I might do that next week, but for now, I think this is like supposed to be your Trick Room counteraction against these, like Dialga, Calyrex, Ice Rider, and Necrozma just kind of feint to a Groudon plus Charizard combination, and there is nothing that really saves them. And he can reverse the Trick Room. And he can intimidate the physical setups, Trick Room sweepers that set up the Trick Room for themselves. Yeah, that's the matchup basically. It's just like tough matchup for them, and I like Sun because it just makes so many matchups tough in this metagame for the opponents. They just have to compensate with stuff like Landorus, but as I've said again, you are a step ahead of Landorus with the Ice Beam Porygon 2. I'm just repeating myself at this point, but that's the basic idea. Sun has just so many good matchups. This is why I might call it the best archetype in the format at the moment. Alright, Zacian plus Friends. Alright, so I'm gonna leave you to rate the Regigigas Weezing combination, but as of right now, remember when I said there were a lot of Zacians top-cutting the tournaments this weekend. So yeah, basically the next most used combination right now is Zacian, Turnus Incarnate, Lapras, Incineroar, Redirection, and maybe Porygon 2. The last lot is generally what is changing a lot. So Zacian, Lapras, Thundurus, Incarnate Form. Lapras and Thundurus Incarnate Form are the main Dynamax. Zacian should be the counteraction for the Dynamaxes of your opponent. Now, Thundurus Incarnate Form is going to be their choice to counteract the Sun. The idea is that well, the problem is, most of the time the Thundurus has safety goggles, because otherwise the team doesn't run Finny, and Venusaur would just sleep powder all over your team. Same applies for Amoonguss and Trick Room, so... but I mean, the safety goggles on the Thundurus are supposed to be literally making the Sun matchup obsolete, so... If you're gonna know that, and you know that Max Lightning probably doesn't... I don't think it one-shots Charizard without the Life Orb boost, so... Just lead Charizard. Don't lead it alongside Incineroar, but lead Charizard plus Groudon, and try to just one-shot the Thundurus with G-Max Wildfire, because after that, Groudon plus Venusaur have amazing matchup in the back. And around Incineroar as your last Pokemon, since it beats the attack boosting Zacian, or at least removes the attack boost from the Zacian, which is extremely important again. So yeah, I would recommend doing that. Now if they got Assault Vest, that's the second most popular variant, you should go with Sleep Powder Venusaur. It's basically like... Well, it's gonna be tough to beat on ladder, but if you're in a best of 3 or you are in open team sheets, you should be able to come out on top based on the knowledge what kind of item Thundurus Incarnate Form runs. Alright, so... Oh yeah, just one small note. The Lapras should be bet by the Sun mode itself. And the Thundurus Incarnate Form runs Defiant, so if you intimidate it, you give it attack boost, and suddenly Charizard gets one-shotted. So yeah, I think that's... Lapras is not usually brought against this. Thundurus is the main weapon against Sun on this archetype. I will change that the next week. Now, Evolta plus Friends. The idea is to KO the Raichu as fast as you can. And bring in Charizard from Parting Shotted slot from the Incineroar slot. And then just reverse sweep with Charizard. That's generally what you want to do against this, as the Evolta seems to be extremely balanced and bulky. They usually have like only like Finny, Incineroar, Amoonguss, Eerie Impulse, Raichu, and like Steel type. They just make extremely bulky core around the Evolta. But the problem is the Charizard just kind of blows through that. It just goes for G-Max Wildfire and just everything just withers away. So, so yeah, basically the idea is just KO the Raichu as fast as you can. Charizard should just pick off from there. And they can even, it's again faster than Evoltal by 1 point, and it can like go for Airstreams before the Evoltal can go for Airstreams, and it's gonna be irritating for Evoltal to try to match that. Yeah. Regieleki, yeah, just there's a note. Evoltal rarely carries Sucker Punch right now, so Regieleki should be great cleanup against this team as well, since Raichu just faints so... It just faints early in the game so often. Just happens like Raichu just leads and then faints. It rarely switches out of the lead slot. And it's almost never in the back, so Regieleki should be great cleanup against Incineroar, Finny, Evoltal. You just get the idea. Especially with Focus Sash and Thunderbolt. Alright, so let's get into the Gunners section. Yeah, music is still going. You're recording my voice. Great, alright. So I'm not recording this episode today. To nowhere. Alright. So Gunner actions. AV Safety Goggles Liner Steering. AV or Safety Goggles Liner Steering form is generally the best choice you got. I explained it earlier, but I'm gonna repeat it again. Landorus weakens Groudon and is immune to its stab, with Intimidated weakens the Groudon. Incineroar gets O-Code if it comes after the Intimidate, and then Landorus also intimidates Landorus if the Incineroar if it comes after it, and it's just get ready to counteract it by that. Venusaur gets to it code by Max Airstream, Charizard gets code by Max Rockfall, and Regieleki generally cannot touch Landorus terrain at all. So Landorus is great. So if you get supported well from the shielded from Sleep Powder with like Safeguard, or give it extra special defense via the Light Screen, Landorus has fair chance of just completely obliterating the Charizard team. But yeah, you have to be wary of the Porygon 2 on that team as well. So again, Light Screen plus Snarl, like together, which should be enough to just keep it at bay. Especially if you got like, if you got Light Screen and Parting Shot, Fake Out, and Incineroar, that's just like best you can do to stop the Porygon 2 from just annoying your Landorus Steering form. So yeah, that's generally what I would recommend. Also, if like, I believe actually that Incineroar, I mean, Porygon 2 gets a attack boost against your Incineroar plus Landorus Slate. So if you got Incineroar next to Landorus, you could EB the Incineroars heavily in the special offense to make Porygon 2's download boost its attack instead of special attack. Then you Burning Shot the Porygon 2, and it's like the Porygon 2 suddenly only tickles the Landorus. Even without Assault Vest, it does probably below 50%, and it's just fantastic. This is what you probably want to do. So yeah, this is just like one more tip. Download on Porygon 2 calculates both of the defense and special defense of both of the Pokemon at the same time, not right up against the, like what's across the battlefield against it. It calculates both of the Pokemon and then just what number is lower boosts the respective stats. So defense is lowered, attack is boosted. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, so it's like that. So if you can manage Porygon 2 to boost its attack and then set up Light Screen or Burning Shadow Bite, that's like, Landorus is just gonna go completely berserk against this thing. So yeah, that's the Landorus, the most effective check. Now I got like I tried doing that at one point. It's kind of cool counteraction. Safety Goggles Airstream plus 194 speed Pokemon. That being Zacian most of the time, but Weavile, Spectre, calyrex-shadow Rider all do pretty well. So the idea is that if they lead with Venusaur or Groudon, you are going to be able to shield your pretty much survive turn 1 guaranteed. For example, Pokemon like Galarian Moltres, and you go for Airstream turn 1 to weaken the Venusaur in the KO range next turn. And with that, you also make your 194 Pokemon much more faster by 1 point than a Venusaur, and the Pokemon should be attempting to KO the Venusaur next turn. After you do that, you go for like Max Circus or Max Airstream against the Groudon, and you snowball out of control after that. So Max Airstream protect turn 1, second turn outspeed with the second Pokemon, KO the Venusaur, attack the Groudon, and you should be out of oblige. And Safety Goggles really only assures that a Venusaur Sleep Pattern won't affect your Pokemon. Moltres Gather is very good at that because it actually tanks the... I mean, Groudon should fear going for Max Rockfall into it if it chooses to Dynamax, because it could have weakness policy. And it's just like... I feel it's just the most optimal way. If you just got another Flying type Pokemon that is not quadruple weak to Fire, Ground, yeah, David, or Rock, it's just probably good to try to run that against this and try this strategy. Zacian is usually the most recommended Pokemon next to that. Now, Taunt 154 attack Incineroar is just generally like another good check to win it on. You want to almost always Dynamax in this case though, because I mean it kind of might catch the opponent off guard, because they expect like Max Quake plus Precipice Bites to just KO the Incineroar, but suddenly you just Dynamax, KO their Venusaur, and it just starts getting ugly for your opponent. Especially since you already intimidate the opponent's Groudon. Also, Taunt shuts down the Porygon 2, so you don't really have to care about the trickery mode either. So I think it's kind of a soft check though, so Incineroar's teammates will have to do some more work against the opponent's team as well, like work against Charizard, like Groudon won't get KO'd so easily and will still finish off Incineroar next turn with another Precipice Blaze. So you have to just, like if you for example got Will-O-Wisp, or something that can heavily damage Zard, Venusaur, or Groudon combo, you should be out of oblige. Also, you can run Thunder Punch on Incineroar to fear of the Charizard, but I think it's just not recommended. I ran that like in Players Cup Qualifier, but it was like a niche option on Weakness plus Incineroar, or at a niche Pokemon on a niche team. Alright, more counteractions. Faster NDD plus Dynamaxer does not weak the Zard, Venusaur, or Groudon combo is generally the best option. Safety Goggles should give you protection against either Sleep Pattern, or Psychic Seed will give you protection against the Venusaur Charizard combination a bit more. So yeah, but the Pokemon next to NDD should do something to stand up against Venusaur Charizard combo. Be able to take a hit. Assault Vest really helps, yeah, again with that, since you're no longer required to go for a Follow Me at that point against Venusaur / Charizard. I mean, you kinda are against the Sleep Powder, but like, you get the idea. Heat Wave or Max Use no longer really annoy you, and you can retaliate back and go for Expanding Force, which heavily damages Groudon because of its average special defense stat. Super effective against Venusaur, and Charizard isn't as bulky either, so if you can manage to do that, it's gonna be great. So suggestions for these Pokemon are Thunderous Incarnate, Moltres Galar, Zapdos, some rock types work pretty well as well, but I have to watch out for Groudon. Like, I think T-Tar could work occasionally, but I don't think it's really worth. Stick to the flying types, generally. Your own safety goggles Charizard is very, I would say, desperate choice, let's say. Since it doesn't necessarily have to synergize with the rest of your team, but it really beats the Sun mode pretty well, as I've mentioned before. Yeah, you pretty basically force out Charizard mirrors, but if you already have different kind of team that can afford to just run different kind of teammates, which can by accident counteract the opponent's Charizard as well. And if you counteract opponent's Charizard pretty well, your own Charizard should just be extremely annoying for the opponent's team. They basically cannot lead Sun mode, ever, so that's horrible. They have to run like Porygon 2 mode, and you can already just try to take advantage of that and run Anti-Trick Room, Reverse Trick Room mode of your own Porygon 2, and you just got options, huh? So really, Safety Goggles Charizard is a very desperate option, but it can be quite effective one. And one last pro tip, Finding is still kind of viable in this metagame, and can eliminate Sleep Powder threat completely, so if you're really weak to Sleep Powder, consider running something like a Finny on a team. So you just kind of are gonna get immune out of Sleep Powder, and you can suddenly focus on running Assault Vest on your Pokemon to try to tank the G-Max Let's G-Max Modifiers a bit better. You can focus on it, like Intimidators, like Incineroar, no longer gonna have to be scared of the Sleep Powder, so they can just fearlessly go for a Max Flare against the Venusaur plus Groudon combination. I think it just adds a lot more flexibility to your team, and flexibility to the counter actions, so don't be afraid to add Finny to this team, even in this metagame. And with that, I think we are done. Hopefully you learned something new today, and I'll catch you next time. I think with Xerneas or Zacian, we're gonna see what I'm gonna talk about next time. As I feel Xerneas is just kind of bad. But Zacian is probably worth talking about next time a bit more, so probably Zacian, maybe Xerneas. So yeah, that's for the next time. Hopefully you enjoyed, learned something new, and I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.